Welcome to Ask Dr. Mingle, the Q&A series from Mingle Health answering your questions about quality programs and the transition to value-based care. I'm Kyle Breckel. I'm the digital marketing specialist here at Mingle Health, and I'll be hosting this episode along with Dr. Dan Mingle, founder and CEO of Mingle Health. Hi, Dr. Mingle.
Good morning, Kyle, and good day to all of you tuning in. It's great to see you again. I'm Dr. Dan Mingle, and I'm here to answer your questions to the best of my ability.
Well, we have 3 excellent questions for you today, Dr. Mingle, so if you're ready, let's jump into them.
Bring them on, Kyle.
Our first question for you today is from John, and John says, I'm confused about quality reporting. We'd like to do a MIPS CQM quality submission. Our EHR produces QRDA I files that we think will be easy to share with you, that is Mingle Health, to build our submissions. But QRDA is designed to support eCQMs, and I know that eCQMs have different specifications than MIPS CQMs. Will they lead to a flawed submission if we try to use our QRDA I?
Great question, John. And the answer to that is no. We can build a solid submission for you on the foundation of your QRDA I data. I can understand the confusion. You're in good company. Now, to get everyone on the same page, let me briefly explain QRDA. QRDA stands for Quality Reporting Data Architecture. It's just one of many different specifications which within the universe of HL7 files, which HL7, of course, is the standard for healthcare data exchange. HL7 specifies the file structure, language, range of acceptable content for a wide range of data use cases. They all fall under the category of Clinical Data Architecture, or CDA. The category CDA includes specifics such as the CCD, or Continuity of Care document, or FHIR, Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources, or QRDA, Quality Reporting Data Architecture. These all share the characteristics of an XML file structure, and HL7 just specifies how that data is organized in a single document. It's kind of like the difference between a textbook or a book of fiction. It's all using the English language, but structured in different ways. QRDA is further subdivided into QRDA I and QRDA III file types. QRDA I contains all of the data pertaining to one patient needed to calculate the quality measure or measures targeted by the QRDA I file. So the QRDA I file contains a portion that tells you what measures you're addressing, and then it follows that with all the data about one patient and all of those measures that are being addressed. That one QRDA I file can contain anything from between one of those QRDA specified measures or all of the eCQM measures that are possible. So QRDA I contains patient-specific data, one file, one patient, one or multiple measures. Now, that QRDA I file can be identified to a specific patient or can be stripped of the data that identifies it to that patient. But the data in a QRDA I has to reflect one single patient, whether we can tell who the patient is or not. Now, a QRDA III is the performance report calculated from the whole set of QRDA I files. So a QRDA III is specific to one practice. It can represent a single quality measure or many quality measures. It can include measures it can only include measures that are eCQM specified. It references many patients. Patients are represented into the pertinent counts, but in no place is a patient identifiable is a single patient or any single patient identified within the file. A QRDA III file cannot be combined with other QRDA IIIs to calculate performance across many practices. So if you're an ACO with multiple practices, each able to create a QRDA III file, those QRDA IIIs cannot be used to build a single submission. Now, all those practices can submit QRDA 1s, and the QRDA 1s can be used to deduplicate the file and combine data about one patient into a single patient record and create an aggregate quality report for the entire organization. Now, back to the question, can you use QRDA 1 to report MIPS CQMs? And the answer is absolutely yes. You're right that QRDA was created specifically to address eCQMs, and eCQMs specifications are usually different than the specifications for the corresponding MIPS CQM measure, but the clinical data required for each measure type is identical one to the other. And we can apply either or both the eCQM specifications or the MIPS CQM specifications to your QRDA 1 files to generate either or both eCQMs or MIPS CQMs from that single set of QRDA 1 files. But bring it on. We can make those. We can make it work in either the MIPS CQM or the eCQM world.
So our next question for you today, Dr. Mingle, is from Greg. And Greg asks, we are an ACO planning to use MIPS CQMs to report the APP, that is the APM performance pathway, for 2025. We know we need to be working toward eCQM submissions. We are concerned that we can't get FHIR out of the EHRs used by our ACO members. Is this going to cripple us?
Great question, Greg. And the answer is no. You don't need to use FHIR or FHIR to build eCQMs. That's true today, and I expect it to stay true tomorrow. Now, FHIR is emerging as the preferred standard for EHR interoperability. It is not yet an exclusive requirement and may never be the requirement for quality reporting. QRDA 1 and QRDA 3 remain the HL standard for quality reporting. QRDA 1 for the exchange of patient-specific data about each quality measure. QRDA 3 is the standard for exchanging the actual measurement of quality. The most important thing to recognize about HL7 standards is, one, you have to use certified EHR technology in order to be scored in MIPS for the promoting interoperability category, unless, of course, you fit one of the exceptions to the need to use certified EHR, like being a small practice or not patient-facing or hospital-based. Now, to be fully certified, the EHR product you use has to show the capacity to do quality performance measurement. Now, that capacity to measure quality can either be available directly from the EHR or through an add-on product from another vendor. To be certified in quality reporting functions, the vendor has to show the ability to read and to write both QRDA 1 and QRDA 3 files. But you, the practice, do not have to use those HL7 file types to create your eCQM performance measures. The only requirement that tracks to you is that your performance data exchange and analysis be all electronic. There is no allowance for any manual chart abstraction. There is no allowance for any manual compilations of the data or calculations from the data. It all has to be electronic. So if you have good HL7 formatted files you can provide to us, we can use them for your quality analytics. QRDA 1, CCD, FHIR, others, we can read them, we can use them in your analytics. We find two common problems with HL7 in daily use for quality reporting. One, certification does not always translate to accuracy and usability of the files. Many things can block the effective flow of the data and population of those standard data fields. So we don't always find HL7 files to be usable from an EHR. There can be differences in coding between the implementation that you are using and the one your vendor used to be certified on. configuration, the unique characteristics of your implementation in your environment might be different than in the idealized environment of the testing. And finally, workflows. I think this is the biggest thing. The workflow, small variations in the clinical documentation workflows used by your clinician can render these standard files useless. They also tend to be inefficient. HL7 files are built per patient, and it becomes, because it's built from the patient perspective, you get one file for one patient containing all the data that pertains to them that can be used for any of the for the measures. It can consume a lot of processing time to create or complete a set of patient-specific files. It can consume a lot of bandwidth to exchange those files, and it can take a lot of processing time for the vendor to ingest those files. So they can be very troublesome. We prefer to use flat files for the exchange of data for clinical quality analysis. They're easier and quicker to produce. They don't require as much technical expertise to set up these queries out of the data set. It's easier to remediate variations in local clinical documentation workflows, and it's easier to find and remediate problems in the files. Rather than one file for each patient with a comprehensive set of patient-specific data in each file, flat files are one file for each data element, with one row for each instance and distinct columns linking that data element to the patients and encounters. It's dramatically more efficient to build and exchange these files. Instead of one file per patient, a typical data set might be one claims file, one file for the results in the performance year, one file for the vital signs in the performance year, one file for orders that are generated in the EHR, and one file for the immunization recorded in your EHR. I think the key to take away from this is that your vendor, to be certified, has to show the capability of reading and generating HL7 files from to and from your data. But the only thing you need as a practice is for it to be all electronic data that generates your eCQMs. And the other, an advantage of all of these data types is that we can take those flat files or the HL7 electronic files and use them to make either eCQM or MIPS CQMs. Now, it can get a little more complicated than that, but I think that's enough for one session. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you for the great question, Greg. Our final question for you today, Dr. Mingle, is from Sheila. And Sheila asks, we are planning to do an MVP, that is MIPS Value Pathway, submission for 2025. We understand that MVPs require one of our selected measures to be an outcomes measure. And if there are no available or appropriate outcomes measures, we must choose a high priority measure. The MVP that is appropriate for us doesn't offer a MIPS CQM outcome measure, only high priority measures. It does have outcome measures, but we'd have to use a QCDR, that is a qualified clinical data registry, to be able to choose any of the offered outcomes measures. We don't want to leave Mingle Health. We've got our quality measurement system reliably down pat with your help. And we trust Medicare to accept a MIPS CQM high priority measure when there are outcome measures we could use by changing registry vendors.
Great question, Sheila, and thanks for your vote of confidence. The rules for MVPs include, as you referred, at least one measure must be an outcome measure or a high priority measure if an outcome measure is not available or applicable. Now, by everything I know and have experienced, I believe you to be safe by choosing a MIPS CQM high priority measure. But I have to admit to a shred of insecurity, simply because MVPs are new to us all. We haven't seen all the rules and choices tested and challenged yet. But there's a lot of reasons to be confident in that approach. Choose your high priority measures and ignore the outcome measures that you'd have to change vendors for. Now, Medicare's use of the phrase, if an outcome measure is not available, applies here. And I expect not available will cover. It's not offered as a choice in the MVP. It's not available from your registry vendor. This assumes that your vendor's qualification by Medicare is up to date and in good standing, as we are, and your vendor is compliant with the requirement that they offer all available MIPS CQM measures, which we do. Medicare does not require registries like us to provide any QCDR measures, although we're free to do so if we can have an arrangement with those QCDRs. Now, we have never seen Medicare individually question the choice of a MIPS participant who says that a measure set or a particular measure is not appropriate for them. I've never seen them overrule or even audit the choice that you've made. With one exception, I've never seen Medicare require engagement of a specific vendor, which would have to happen if you were required to choose a QCDR. And the one exception to that is that for a long time there was a single source of patient satisfaction measurement, but that limitation was repaired many years ago. Now there are multiple sources of that. So in recent times, in Medicare quality reporting, I've never seen them require a single available vendor to do any of that work. Now, on the other hand, I have seen Medicare representatives make mistakes in application of their own rules, and we need to see those mistakes happen until they learn from it and standardize and get back and make sure things are on track and equivalent with MIPS CQM intentions. But that is also the function behind the focused review you can request after MIPS scoring is announced and distributed for review. So I think that, and based on all the experience we have in MIPS CQMs and MVP CQMs being the heir of all of that, all of those functions, that you're in solid position choosing a high priority measure when there's no outcome measures available from your vendor.
Great question, Sheila. Thank you for sending it in, and thank you to John and Greg as well, and thank you, Dr. Mingle, for sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you, Kyle, and thanks to all of you for your great questions. I want to be helpful. I want this to be useful to you. Don't hesitate to correct me or supplement my answers. Share your experience. Ask your questions. We can be smarter together.